Hello, it's Ruby, and I recently took a solo trip to Stourhead. Stourhead is a National Trust site, and it's located on the border between Dorset and Somerset, and it's properly in the middle of nowhere. Like, the village is made up of only a few houses and a single church, but it is glorious. Oh my gosh. This hotel room is amazing. It's literally on the Stourhead National Trust property site, and included in your stay is a pass that will let you into Stourhead Gardens for the entirety of your time here. I do have a National Trust membership, but that is incredible because usually entrance would be like £20. So if you're here for 3 days, you save £60 just on entrance fees. I'm going to give you a tour because it's massive. They upgraded my room, which is very kind. It's massive. I'm going to give you a tour. This is an overview of the massive room as well. There is this beautiful armchair. This antique cabinet of drawers. It did say on their website that they source antiques, like local antiques, with the help of the National Trust, and so these are genuine antiques. Oh my gosh, it's just decorated so beautifully. Look how big the bed is as well. And then there's another of these armchairs. I think this is the showstopper. A window seat looking out over the garden. And then look, you can see this beautiful building over the road. The kettle and coffee machine. We've got Twining Earl Grey, Clippers Peppermint, amazing selection. The desk, of course. And then this is interesting, it's like a piece of embroidery, and then there's a mirror over the mantelpiece, a TV and another desk. And also this cabinet. I'm not gonna lie, I'm in shock at how nice this place is. I wasn't expecting it to be as lovely as this. I actually love that little door so much. It kind of feels like the Coraline door, and I'm half tempted to crawl inside the loft space, but I also don't think that's probably a sensible idea, so I won't. Okay, I'm now gonna go to Stourhead. Oh my gosh, I still can't get over the fact it's raining. I feel like I'm always so lucky with the weather when I go places like this. Like, I really want it to rain, and then it always does. And my thinking is it might not be rainy tomorrow, so I really need to make the most of the rain today. Oh my gosh. It was a wonder to walk into these gardens. They are unlike any I've seen before, with curious disparate structures peeking out from the trees, narrow pathways every which way, and a beautiful lake in the centre. Oh my gosh. It felt like something from my imagination, an imaginary place taken from an old book and tucked away in a pocket of my mind. The gardens are filled with curiosities. As you turn on the path, you might catch a glimpse of a white pillar, or a thatched roof, or a western redbud tree, but only for a moment before it moves again out of sight. I love how it feels like you're exploring. I love how it's not intuitive. There are some lovely moorhens here as well. I love the way they bob underwater to feed. And then this side there is a swan. The inside of this room is filled with the most magnificent sculptures, and these were inspired and commissioned after Henry the Magnificent went to Italy for the Grand Tour. These are replicas. These two are made out of marble. Diana is made out of lead. These two are made out of plaster. But this one, the most beautiful one, is over 2,000 years old. I'm here at Apollo, which is where the famous scene happens. And when I say the famous scene, I mean in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, where Mr. Darcy declares his love to Elizabeth Bennet. There's now this very strange tunnel. That was so much fun. I had such a lovely day and I'm really excited to go back tomorrow morning and I'm going to see the house then. I've just picked this up for breakfast. Like, you have to fill in what you want for breakfast. Number 3. I am going to ask for mushrooms, baked beans, hash brown, tomato. I then sat on the window seat and did some journaling. I have loved doing a more visual kind of journaling these last 8 months. It's so fun to add to and to look back on. But journaling like this does take more time than just your standard written journal. So I only did the bare bones of the entries while I was away, and then I added to them when I got back home. This is following some advice from Michelle Tabarris's Skillshare class. She's got this wonderful Skillshare class on travel journaling, which I loved, and I especially loved class 11, which encourages you to add little cartoons and comics to your journal spreads, which I had never really thought to do before, but I did that today. I added some drawings about my trip to Frome, and I honestly really love how it turned out, even though it obviously does not look as good as hers. Skillshare is an easy way to learn something new from an expert, and I love the fact that these are not classes made with AI. This is a place where you can learn from actual humans instead. There are so many classes to choose from, and I love how you can take any of these classes for a quick boost of education. If you do want to try Skillshare, the first 500 people to click on the link in the description box or scan the QR code can get a month of Skillshare completely for free. It's just past 6 and I'm going to go outside and just walk around a little bit, not actually go anywhere, but I just want to get some fresh air before I come in and get ready for bed. I'm strangely tired. I'm always very tired on days that I've travelled, even though I haven't travelled like extremely far. I really just have been so incredibly lucky today with the weather because it's hauntingly beautiful with the mist. Like, just look at the way that it settled over the church and just the time of year as well, like having this blossom out, the blossom here as well, and the trees that are just starting to bloom. It's such a tiny space. Like, I wasn't expecting Stourhead to be so remote, but it's incredibly remote. And I was on Google Maps before I came, like, practicing walking along this road to see what was at the end of things. So this road here is called High Street, which feels bizarre. There are just a few cottages, the B&B and this church, and then the gardens here. So remote. I feel very lucky to be here. This part of the church, you know, between the doors, I always feel like it's a space which feels at the start of a story, if that makes sense. It's just such an atmospheric space, and I think you're so aware when you go into these spaces how many stories that spot holds. Often, like in this case, the kind of bench was very worn down, and it's so interesting to think about the people that may have sat there over the years. I feel like it would be a fun prompt for a piece of creative writing if you enjoy creative writing, you know, somebody seeking shelter from a storm or trying to enter the church and getting stuck in the alcove. I've spent some time sat here on the window seat just planning, and it's always a lovely thing to do when you're away, because my favourite thing about travelling is that new perspective it gives you, and find that very inspiring, that new kind of forced way of thinking. It's now 8 o'clock and I think I'm going to get into my pyjamas and watch Pride and Prejudice. I feel like I have to before I go back tomorrow. This is just a crazy place to be right now. Oh my gosh, the colour. Good morning. Oh, I still can't get over this view. Okay, I've just got ready. Quickly do my plaits and then I'm going to go down for breakfast. Deja vu. I'm back in the gardens again, and apparently I'm the first one here, which is quite cool. So it's like a private garden. The idea of being the only one in this garden is like so bizarre. Obviously not the only one, because there are so many wonderful volunteers who make it possible for National Trust properties to be here. My grandma actually used to volunteer with the National Trust. She volunteered for, I think, over 10 years, and it is just remarkable how many people put that time aside to like make sure that the public can come and enjoy places like this. So to get to Apollo, you go through this structure. I started Pride and Prejudice last night, and I'm actually enjoying it. I'm 50 pages in, and I've shocked myself by actually loving it so far. Now, the fascinating thing about Stourhead Gardens is you can't see everything at one glance. Like, from any one spot, you won't be able to see all of the different buildings, and that's because the trees are artfully positioned so that they hide certain structures when you're in others. And so it's meant to invoke this sense of discovery and of adventure when you're walking around. And I just think that's so cool, and I've never been to a garden like that before. So look, you can see there, but this tree covers Apollo. So essentially there are loads of hidden alcoves. It kind of made me think of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. It's a place where things and people shrink, distort and disappear as you pass through, like the hedgehog croquet balls or the Eat Me biscuits. You never know what you're going to see or pass next. Okay, this one is gated off, but I'm pretty sure these are little boat houses so that boats can go out onto the lake. And I still can't get over the fact that this is man-made. It's giant, a massive man-made lake that took 2 years to dig out. They used the source of the River Stour, which is very nearby. They like diverted it so that it would fill up this lake. There's another one here. Go inside. I then stumbled across one of my very favourite structures. It's called the Grotto, and it comes with an apt warning for uneven cobbles and an unlit pathway. This feels like you're stepping underground. In an instant, the birdsong drops away, and instead you're left with the steady trickle of water from the fountains. And indeed, there is a sculpture of Aeneas from Virgil's The Aeneid, and in that piece, Aeneas goes into the underworld. And so by having his sculpture here in this damp and dark spot, it does feel like you've stepped into the underworld. That kind of seems to be the intention. There is also a second sculpture, which is of a nymph, again connected to literature. You see, carved into the marble beneath the sculpture is an extract from a poem by Alexander Pope, which starts, "Nymph of the grot, these sacred springs I keep." You might also be interested in the font used for this engraving, because it's actually one of the earliest known cases of a serif font being used, which was discovered by James Moseley. And using this, he was able to show that serif fonts were used earlier than we previously thought. Isn't this just the dreamiest cottage you've ever seen? With the beams here, and then it's got a thatched roof. I'm most glorious of these windows, like, they're so unique, and then it looks straight out over the lake. Of everywhere I've seen at Stourhead, if I could live anywhere, this would be it. I mean, what can you imagine living in this tiny cottage? As I'm walking up, I'm starting to see Apollo again, just through the trees, and it's making me think, like, because that's the only building that you can see in the whole of this like wide expanse of what looks like natural countryside. It looks like the middle of nowhere. And then you see this glorious pinnacle right in the middle. Like right here, you can see Apollo. And there's nothing else around it, even though we know that there are lots of other buildings. I feel like I'm a wanderer who's got terribly lost, doesn't know where the nearest piece of civilization is. And then you'd see this building and walk around the lake looking for it, and you go inside, and that's the beginning of the story. You know, what do you find inside and what could be inside a tiny building like that? This beautiful walled garden. The whole house is beautiful and remains with its original ancestral furniture, which is quite unusual actually for a National Trust property. But the most glorious room is obviously the library. This library is actually the best preserved Regency library in the UK. There is even a replica of Raphael's School of Athens mural from the Apostolic Palace. And then if you pass through the entire house, you will eventually reach the gallery. It's the very final room, and it's filled with Italian paintings which Henry collected while on his grand tour of Italy. All that is, apart from two. Two of these paintings were commissioned and based on Thomson's Seasons poems, which he loved. And I do talk about this more in my latest Substack article if you're interested. I'm here in Frome and I want to go to the Sherlock and Pages bookshop. It took me about 45 minutes to get to Frome, and I was not here for long, but I had to visit Sherlock and Pages. You might follow Luke on Instagram. He creates the most incredible historic content and also wrote a book about churches. But he owns this bookshop in Frome and it's just so delightful. I would highly recommend it if you're ever in the area. I did actually very briefly see Luke for like 10 minutes and he very kindly bought me a coffee. But then I headed back to Stourhead and spent the rest of the evening just walking around the gardens. Look, this duck is like a little arrowhead. It's just so beautiful. I cannot recommend Stourhead enough. I think this might be my favourite National Trust property I've visited, which is saying something because I've visited quite a few now. It's so soft, the moss. I can understand why people call it a cushion of moss. Like, it genuinely feels like a pillow. Just look. I just sat under this tree and you can see one of the buildings over here. And I'm leant up against this giant tree and feeling very at peace and very happy. I'm hiding behind a sparse array of branches. Thin, elegant things with leaves not quite grown and thin enough they pale when the sun catches them. The lowest branches touch the surface of the lake, tracing the water with their dancing feet. I wonder how we can long for things when we have such delicate ballets here on our shores, and I feel remarkable gratitude that these spaces have been kept safe for us, that they are still breathing, centuries on thanks to so many volunteers, that the swans have a place to nest, and the wagtails a place to sing, and the bluebells a place to bloom each year, and these branches a place to dance. Spring after spring after spring. What an absolute beauty of a thing, the continuation of an existence such as this. It's 6 o'clock and it's time to go back. I would just keep on going. I have also been told about a Bluebell walk, which is in the woods behind. The lady who was like at the visitor centre marked it out for me because I was saying how excited I was to see the bluebells, and she said it was an amazing walk. But I don't know if I really want to start a walk now, just in case it's dark. I mean, the sun is still quite high. I might be okay, but at this point in the day, it always drops quite quickly. And before you know it, it's dark, and you kind of hadn't bargained for that. Oh my gosh, and this view. Oh, I don't want to go home, honestly. Like, can you imagine having this as your local park? Like your local National Trust property being Stourhead, and you could just come down here whenever, and when you want to walk, you walk around this. Like, it's so easy to get lost. Not that I actually have got lost, but you can pretend that you're lost. You can kind of tell yourself that you're lost. There is a sense of magic, I think, to this property, and largely because of all the woodland, which isn't ancient, but it kind of feels like ancient woodland. And there are so many alcoves and so many just tiny spaces, and obviously it's all been curated, but it seems like it's layerings of history, and it feels like there are all these stories embedded in the space which aren't being told. And obviously, like, it's all one person's story really. Henry the Magnificent was the one to put it together, but it feels like it couldn't just be one person's, because I mean, the cottage, for example, is medieval revivalist, and it's got, like, the windows are very medieval, and then you've got like the ancient stone structure we're about to go through now, which feels like it's Celtic, and then you've got the Palladian buildings, which are scattered everywhere, which feel like they're Italian. And because they're all so different, it feels like they must have been all put there by somebody different, and they weren't, but it gives the idea of that, and it kind of gives the idea of history in the space, even though that history is not actually there. So I think that the gardens, in their own right, are the telling of a story. It's kind of Henry the Magnificent trying to tell a story, but not one which is written, it's one which is immersive and which is lived. But I do think that this garden is a form of storytelling because of all of the different layers of history which have been built and created and crafted. I guess what I'm trying to say is that this garden as a whole is a story in its own right, but one which is told through stone instead of words. It's a language which is just told in a different alphabet. Stourhead Garden invites you to create a story of your own as you try to understand how and why these buildings each came to exist. As an attendee of the garden, you yourself decide what those histories are and must create those stories for yourself. Okay, I'm back. I'm going to decompress, take out my contacts, sit on the window seat, of course, and maybe do some journaling about today. I've just boiled the kettle. This is such a cute little kettle as well. And I need to decide on a tea. There are quite a few options. There is a chamomile. I'm going to give a chamomile. I love Clippers tea as well. And then as I was journaling, I got an email through, which was just so exciting. And funnily enough, it was for an application that I made last time I did a solo trip like this. Like, I can't stop smiling. I'm actually in disbelief. I did not think I was going to get this by any means. I applied for this research grant. I just got an email to say that I got it, which is just, like, I can't believe that. That is unbelievable. I don't know what it is about window seats, which are just so delightful. I'm going to check out in 15 minutes. So the garden's open at 9:30. They're just around the corner, so I can get there very easily. That's in 15 minutes. And then my taxi is booked for 9:45. And I'm cutting it a little bit fine, but it's only because I really want to go into the gardens one final time before I leave. And the idea of not going in is too sad. Like, I know I want to come back here, I say this so often. I go places and I'm like, I really want to come back here, but I don't often revisit places. But I want to, because, I don't know, it's funny as well. I always say, you know, this is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. But oh my goodness, Stourhead is, maybe the truth is that there are just so many glorious places that you can't rank them and you can't say this is the most beautiful place, because they're beautiful in different ways. And also to say, oh, this is the most beautiful place denotes the other things. Like, just because one thing is beautiful doesn't mean something else is less beautiful, in the same way as just because someone else is something doesn't mean you're less of that thing. Like, yeah, I don't think everything has to be comparative. Okay, I'm going to leave this lovely room and I'm going to go and check out. I forgot to sleep in plaits last night, which is why I'm wearing them now, because my hair just looks so messy. I was so nervous I'm going to forget something. Okay. Let's go. More than anything, I'm just filled with immense gratitude that I was able to take this trip, and that Stourhead exists, and that it's been preserved, and that it actually remains, and that it's accessible to the public. Like, it really is just glorious. It feels like nowhere else I've been before, and if you like historic properties, if you like Alice in Wonderland, if you like getting lost in spaces, then Stourhead is a wonderful choice, and very accessible from London as well. I didn't actually go straight home though. I was not too far from Exeter and the train ticket wasn't that expensive, so I got a train to Exeter and met up with a friend whilst I was there. I was reading more of Pride and Prejudice on the train as well, which I am still really enjoying, very much surprising myself by loving it. And when I was in Exeter, I went to Sacred Grounds, of course, which is my favourite place to eat in Exeter. I'm here at Sacred Grounds in Exeter, which is my favourite place to eat in the city. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you have more than just a productive week.